Welcome, Kadeem. Kadeem Aarons is a strength coach and educator from Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. He is well known for his participation in the Australian Ninja Warrior competition and most recently the American Ninja Warrior. Kadeem, nicknamed Kadeem the Dream, made his debut in the competition in 2017 and has since been a regular participant. He stands at 5'2" and 159 centimeters, and 64 kilo is his target weight, which he usually competes at, and his shortest male competitor in the show's history. Kadeem has been working on his technique to combat his lack of height and has been training with his Melbourne Misfit pals with the aim of improving his 2017 semi-final berth. He was working with the AFL's Richmond Football Club as a strength coach and educator back in 2017 to 2018 and regularly travels to Mildura to identify young indigenous talent. Kadeem has overcome adversity to forge his own path, inspiring others along the way. He loves that he is able to be a positive role model for young kids to pursue their dreams and be their best. I've known Kadeem now for a couple of years and we've done some interesting things together. We met through a mutual friend with a health clinic. Tell me, when did you first get into your sport?
Well, good to see you, Freds. But yeah, it has been a minute. I first, I guess obviously we're talking about Ninja, so I saw the ad for the show. I would say July, maybe June 2016. And I was just at home at my grandmother's house, and I saw the ad for it. I was like, oh my goodness, I've seen the US show before. I've seen the Japanese version, which is the origin. I was like, oh man, I got to do this. And that very night, I spent 3 hours filling out my application, recorded my video. So yeah, I think it all started, probably around July 2016. And obviously they were filming in December that year. So I thought to myself, while waiting for everything to start, I probably should start training. And lo and behold, there wasn't many places to train.
Right. Yeah. I've watched a lot of your videos and reels, your reels and your Instagram and stuff like that. And some of that stuff is really scary.
Oh yeah. You see my friends, they're on another level. They're just insane stuff they do. But yeah, our sport is very, very extreme in terms of athletic requirements, which anyone can learn. But there's definitely, if you have a foundation in certain sports, it definitely gives you, I guess, an advantage.
There's so many multiple disciplines. What are some of the disciplines that are required to participate? Like it's different if you're training for one specific sport, like rowing or something like that. You've got a set of routine exercises, you've got a set of behaviors, but it just behooves me the flexibility, the stamina, the strength. There's just so many multiple disciplines in there.
Yeah, that's what's kind of crazy. I would say the crux of Ninja is strength and aerial awareness. Being aware of where you are in the air, because you're often traveling from one obstacle to another. So you have to physically leave one to the other, often without touching the ground. So the level of aerial awareness and coordination that you need in the air is critical. And then obviously the strength, mainly in the upper body, as most of the obstacles, I would say 80 to 90% of them are upper body orientated. So your upper body strength needs to actually be above the normal, I would say above normal to what most people have. So climbing can be a very good, probably second. Yeah, so gymnastics would be first preference in terms of background sport, and then rock climbing for grip strength and a bit upper body strength. The gym can assist in some capacities, just your sort of basic body weight strength training. But yeah, it's really that aerial awareness is critical to have any success.
Well, you entered this arena around the age of 24, I believe, somewhere around there.
Oh gosh, it's been about 7 years. So yeah, about 23, 24, sometime around then.
So in that time and all that commitment, how important is health and well-being, like just nutrition, diet, exercise, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I will not say that I eat, the cleanest diet. I love my sweets. I like chocolate, and I still like to treat myself. But yeah, I would say obviously overall, you 100% need to look after yourself. With Ninja, you can't be too heavy unless you've got really good strength to weight ratio. But often or not, because you're hanging on to stuff, the heavier you are, the harder it's going to be for you. So, obviously there is an element of that. Yeah, you do need to look after yourself in terms of your food. I would say I, look after myself 70, 80% of the time.
Would you say you're genetically gifted from a
I'm sure.
physicality?
Yeah, maybe there's a physical element. Some would say, oh, well, with my skin tone, I should be a lot more taller based on genetics. But in terms of the physical aspects, there's definitely an element. But I would say genetics, it's more gives you it's more of a capacity. So, if you look at say NFL players, for example, they're just physical animals. But I would say your genetics gives you a certain range and capacity. Like anyone can get stronger. It is harder to get faster, but anyone can get stronger or lose weight. Like it's possible for anyone. It's just maybe how strong or how fast. That is probably where then the genetics would come into play as to differentiating. Your top 0.0001% of athletes.
Did you notice any physiological changes to your life through the intense training for Ninja? Like, did it move your body around a bit? Did it change your physiology?
I'll put it this way: I don't train that much. I probably only train maybe twice a week. In terms of, I might only even now only do one Ninja session, and then I try and climb once a week. And if I'm lucky, I get 2 climbs in. Since I started, so 7 years ago, I've put on 10 kilos. Body fat levels. Body fat levels have gone up, not significantly, but my muscle mass has gone up tremendously.
I noticed.
And not from doing, like, I'm not doing a lot. I'm not training 4 or 5 days a week. The thing about Ninja is, often or not, if we're doing an obstacle course run, you might be in the air for 2 to 3 minutes, or probably less time actually, depending on how quickly you are. But because you're spending so much time under tension, and so loading your muscles constantly under tension, so there might be an obstacle that might take 30 seconds to complete. I feel like that over time has contributed massively to putting on the muscle. I just think it's just more like, if you look at bodybuilders, the way they train to put on muscle. A lot of the stuff they do is time under tension, like if you watch the way they train in the gym. So they really want to try and load up a muscle and hold that contraction for as long as possible with what they do. So I think there's actually elements of that in terms of, I know it's kind of confusing, but like in terms of the way the sport is, at least for my body, that actually allowed me to obviously stack on so much weight and not really train that much. I mean, that could possibly be the genetic element, maybe. I've got other friends who don't look like they've changed, but maybe not as much as I have over 7 years.
So now that you're moved on those 7 years, and things don't get easier the older you get. Sometimes they do. Some things get easier and some things get harder. But the question I have for you is, your last competition was in USA, in America?
Yeah, that was earlier this year.
And what does the future hold for you in relation to Ninja Warrior, or do you have other things in sight? Have you come across High Rocks?
I've heard of it. I've had a few friends from my Ninja gym do the High Rocks competition that previously came about. I can't say that stuff interests me particularly. In terms of Ninja, it feels like the shows are ending. So we got up to season 6 in Australia, and that was 2 years ago. So this year it didn't come on. Sorry, my apologies. It's been 1 year. So this year, or the end of last year, when they released all the channels released their shows that they're gonna run, Ninja wasn't on it. So okay, maybe that was it. It's done. And then obviously, they release the shows again, and it doesn't appear that Ninja's made it back on. Interestingly, though, production has kept some of the more big time ninjas, because I wouldn't put myself in that category anymore, in the loop as to keep training. We're gonna make it work. But it doesn't seem to have eventuated. When I was in the US, they were filming season 15 technically, and then what happened was, they ended up getting they took a budget cut. The production took a whole budget cut, I think, just based on ratings over the years. So what they decided to do was they decided to film 2 seasons back to back, and they concentrated most of their filming in LA. Normally, they like to take the set and everything to go around the country to film all the qualifiers, just so that because obviously the US being so large, I guess it makes it more fair in terms of they move to more central locations throughout the country just to film the initial part of the competition, and then everything centralizes in Vegas for the finals. But because of their budget cuts, they decided to film all the qualifiers and all the semifinals in LA. And then what they did was they then had like a week off, and then they filmed season 16. And what happened with season 16 was it wasn't actually renewed for 16th year. And what they were going to do was, if NBC, which is the network that hosts the show in the US, if they didn't renew it, they would just be able to shop it around to another network. But NBC gave them a 1-year extension. So I ended up being on season 16, which will air next year, I believe. And the talks were then, because they got that 1-year extension, that it probably won't be renewed after that. So if the US one isn't renewed, that's a strong indication, probably globally, that it might take a hit. But it's very interesting, because if you look at other countries, like Germany has been doing very well with Ninja. They're airing their 8th season now, and they've developed kind of like the US. The US has some spin-off series. So they've got like an All-Stars episode that they do. They have they used to have an international episode that they used to do, which they seem to have stopped. They now have replaced that with some sort of couples, which I think is boring, but that's all right. That's their prerogative. And then they're doing a women's championship. So the US has a few spin-offs, whereas the Germans have also created a few spin-offs. They got like an international one, All-Stars. So Germany seems to be doing really well. France, I think, had a gap, but they seem to be doing okay. And funny enough, Israel, before obviously what's happening over there, Israel was kicking off with Ninja as well. So even if the US stops, it might not affect, say, the Germans or the French or the Israelis, but yeah, it feels like there's been a drop-off. So it's a long-winded answer to the question, but I felt like it needed explanation.
No, that's great, because people interested will have a background in what's going on. Now, obviously, the journey in 7 years has taken its toll on your body. You know, like some of it, of course, it develops health and well-being, and you're strong, but also there's injury and there's setback and there's stress on the body. What do you think the future is for you at your current stage? What are you looking forward into?
Well, I'll probably transition more into climbing because of the lack of stress on the joints. So with climbing, it's a lot of time on the tension, but there's no impact, unless, like, very little, unless you're doing what they call a dyno, which is you're transferring from one hold to another. You have to physically leave the wall to grab the hold. Whereas in Ninja, that's most of Ninja is physically leaving the obstacle, catching another one. It's that impact is what makes it very crippling. And for me, I seem to have, I think, it's probably chronic now because it hasn't really gone away, bursitis in my right shoulder.
Right.
I often ice it almost every other day. Or if I don't have a good warm-up, then it's annoying. And that I've been carrying since before March. So leading into maybe 2 months leading into going to the US, I've probably had it since January. So I can't really, like, there's not really much I can do, because if I stop, I'll have to stop for a long time. So I'd rather just keep training and just try not to do any crazy moves that would aggravate it. So even with Ninja, I just have to be careful.
There are some specific subtle exercises for the micro muscles around those things. Like, for instance, I had a situation going on here, and I went to someone. I said, if you push it like that, it'll fix this part. And then what do you call it? Push down in the middle finger. So eventually I worked that problem out. But that, I guess it's tennis elbow or a bit of
that
bursitis.
sounds like a tendon issue. So I basically have inflammation in my shoulder constantly. So I often ice it most days.
Do you seek out myotherapist? Do you seek out herbalists, things like that?
Oh, there's probably not much I can do. I think, honestly, I have to stop training for a while for it to probably settle down.
Okay. I know that personally I've had a lot of injury in my life and physical limitation, and I'm super excited because I'm overcoming 90% of it, you know, and I've got an optimism that I can probably fix everything if I'm just patient and I keep working on the challenge with good insight, knowledge, and good help. So
there's probably foods I could eat, you know, and stuff that would probably help with inflammation. But in terms of, I don't think there's an exercise, because it's not necessarily a muscular issue. It's overuse, it's constant use. So I don't think I don't think an exercise will fix this issue other than rest time. There might be foods I can eat that can help reduce, but again, like I said, if I warm up properly and I don't do silly moves, then I've been okay.
What are some of your favorite food sources? You know, obviously, there's certain staples that keep you in a good condition. What are some of your favorite food sources?
Honestly, I'm probably pretty bad at asking about food because I'm not that I'm not that knowledgeable. But I tend to eat. I like steak.
Good grass-fed steak, you know, and Scotch fillet. It's good. Yeah, I have that occasionally. Yeah.
If the budget allowed it, then yes, I'd eat the best steak I could. But the Coles Scotch fillet will have to settle. I'll have to settle for. I like roast potatoes, so I like to roast potatoes, carrot and broccoli. The carrot and broccoli is my staple veg. Again, there's probably more I could do.
Do you have much cauliflower?
No, I don't think I have any.
Well, just cauliflower along with the broccoli. Cauliflower is really high in potassium.
Mm,
And I used to hate cauliflower. I used to fight my parents when they fed it to me.
yeah,
Now I have it every week. You know, when I buy asparagus spears,
yeah,
broccoli, and cauliflower. They're my staples, so that I've got that consistent green machine thing happening.
yeah.
And
No, I've actually,
carrots.
yeah, obviously since seeing you last, I did a scan, which I haven't had in a while. So I was like, yeah, oh, wow, my muscle mass has gone up, but I was quite surprised by my body fat levels because my abs have definitely gone. They're not what they used to look like, but they're still there. So I was like, wow, like I was very, very surprised by seeing the percentage. Like it was an increase of almost 6 to 7% to what it normally would be, according to that. So it could be accurate, might not be, but I definitely know I have gained body fat because I can see it. So it made me like, dang, I need to cut back on stuff or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll,
Well, it's interesting you say that because my body fat ratio's come down considerably. Now I'm sitting at 15.6 at the moment, which I'm really happy
wow,
with.
you're doing
And
better than me.
I'm sitting at 70 kilo. A couple of my friends are a bit concerned. I look like a scarecrow, but you got to move your body around if you want to get into position. My new goal is to get muscle mass, but the whole body weight ratio, the muscle mass, the bone density, I'm headed up to 71 in February. And
Wow.
when you get to this age, all these things are so much more important because limitations when you're 30, 35 is like a hangover. You get over it the next day or a couple of weeks. But when you get to my age, everything is so intensely and acutely effective upon your health. I play competition badminton now. That's my sport found me at
Yeah.
70. I started about 6 months ago. I'm loving it. And I realized to improve, I have to train. I can go every week and just play. But if I want to improve, the limitation is how much of the court can I cover?
Yes.
Or how much flexibility I've got, how much reflexes I've got and stuff like that. And everything's affected by your diet. And when you're talking about your abs, it's funny. All our abs are always there. They never go away. Abs are abs. What it is good abs are made in the kitchen. It's the body fat, visceral fat, which is the dangerous fat. It's the belly fat that sits over the top of the abs that disguises them and hides them. Once that fat's peeled back, go to any concentration camp and you'll see everyone with six-pack abs.
Yeah.
You starve somebody. And I met a guy. This is interesting at a business networking meeting. And we got talking and he said, yeah, you look pretty fit for your age and all this. And we got talking and he showed me pictures of himself and he looked like Adonis. He was ripped in the pictures. I said, how did you do that? And he said, oh, I starved myself for a year and worked out like crazy. So obviously it's the backing off of the food and putting in the right food and nutrients. That's the science behind it. And that's where I'm putting all my energy and study into really understanding the exercise, mobility, stretching, flexibility, mindset, and food nutrition dynamic as a holism so that I can help my clients get healthy and achieve their goals. And mindset is so important. How important is mindset for you in achieving your goals? Because you've obviously achieved a lot of good things and you're still yet to achieve a lot more. So how much does mindset play in it all?
Probably 70%.
Yeah.
And if we look at Ninja as the example, it's one thing to do the training and just train around the gym. It's when you then go to a competition, forget the show, we have our local competitions or national competitions or whatever, you only get the one shot. On the show, you get the one shot. Actually, no, we'll use the show as the example. The show is the extreme example. You get shown the course one time via a course tester. You don't get to touch a thing. You get seen it once. You have one chance to ask questions about that obstacle, and then they move on to the next one. So you have to soak in that whole minute of what you're being told and what you see, and you have to take in so many things. How high did that person jump? How far do you reckon he traveled? What's the material like on the obstacle? Is it spongy? Is it metal? Is it plastic? All these things you have to take in, and then you have to then wait for hours and hours and hours. And you don't get to warm up and prepare like an athlete would because this is TV. So in the US and the Australian are different with the way they go about productions, but the mindset, it's all still the same. So your anxiety levels, everything's building up. If you're lucky, you'll get to run early. If you're unlucky, you'll run at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning or 4, like I've done in the US. So and then everything boils down to that moment. You know, there's the obstacle and there's water. You have to put everything together, and everything has to be perfect. As soon as you drop, that's it. You're done. So,
What have, what
so,
have been some of the highlights for you? Like some of the good moments?
um, good moments. I mean, the whole thing's a good moment. Like, you know, it's just being on the course itself is also obviously the ultimate high. It's the ultimate, like, well, it's all, you know, everything you've been doing, like, that year. This is it. Lights, everything's flashing at you. So it's a cool experience. I've also been lucky to course test a little bit in the US last year, as well as the last couple of years for the Australian production. So that also gives a unique experience. Anyway, back to the point, mental mindset. So you need to be in the mindset that you're going to win, you're going to clear, despite how little prep you get on the day of competition. So your mindset is basically most of it, because you have to believe that you're going to get through it, especially the obstacles that are intimidating. You have to believe and have processed how you're going to do it. So
I've seen some of your training sessions on your reels and your Insta, and they're quite intense. You know, I watched one there where you got through the whole course without a slip. That was cool. You know,
sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. You know, and can you be consistent? So then, like, you know, we do that in training, and then when you're in competition, you know, let's say it's a local comp or whatever, like, you know, again, you have to put it all together. Now you might be able to be allowed to continue going, just because it's not as, you know, we've kind of gone away from the whole you drop, you're done. You know, if you drop, you keep going, but that's where it's marked that you fell. So at least you can get to finish the course. But again, it's hard to do well. It's even harder to be consistent.
yeah,
Being consistent is the hardest thing to do. To then be consistently in the top, I mean, it's a mindset. What separates the elite athletes in terms of the ones who are physically elite, but they then can't always put it together on the day. What separates those guys and, you know, those guys that are always clearing, always top 5, top 3 is just their confidence in them, in their ability.
confidence. How much do you think confidence plays in it?
Everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything. Because if you think you're going to fail the obstacle, you probably are. It's a self-prophecy. So what I like about ninja is the ninja in terms of the training, the whole sport is just a complete reflection of life. It's a complete and utter reflection of what life is. You might only get one shot, and if you waste it, you're done. You might be lucky, you might get a few opportunities. If you're not, like from a show point of view, if you're not, because also they're running a business, they don't really care about you, or they care about what you provide for them.
Yeah,
so, you know, if you're a character and you do well, you know, if you're, you know, providing them what they need, you get what you need. So, yeah, there's so many aspects of like the show and the ninja, the sport, that kind of reflect aspects of life. So, yeah, it's a brutal sport, but yeah, confidence, particularly when you're running through the course, is critical, because you need to commit to the moves. If you have a plan, you got to commit and execute what you planned. If you're fearful of making a move, you're not going to commit to it, so then you'll probably fail it. Yeah, so
watching others, how much does that help you with the visualization of your own skills? Like, for instance, in my sport, I improve week to week because I watch others intensely, and I actually put myself into a mindset. I'm in their body playing the move that they're playing.
Oh, so it's critical. Absolutely. Yeah. Now I'll use the shows again as an example. The American and the US production do things differently. So, sorry, the Australian and the American productions do things differently. With the Australian production, once you've seen the course, you go into a room with all the competitors, the holding room. You don't get to see you don't get to see anyone do anything. You only know if they've cleared because they're dry, or they've come out and they're wet, and they tell you where they came off and whatever. You don't know what's going on at any given time. I don't like it. Then they'll take the next 5 people, like the 5 people that are currently in their order, and also you don't know the order either. You don't know when you're going to run. They then will put them in a separate room, so that they can like pull them out to run the course, and then there's a screen in there. There's often been a screen, so you can kind of.
Wow! So you get no foresight.
No foresight.
Oh, bugger!
But that's the Australian one. In the American one, in their holding room is TV screens, so you can watch throughout the whole competition. When I realized that they did that, it was a totally different experience.
Game changer.
Because everyone was more relaxed. Not, I wouldn't say more relaxed, but like people were still, you know, getting a little bit stressed or whatever. But like the fact you could see what was going on changed for me, not having that completely changed it. So obviously when we're doing our local comps, we're obviously there, so we can see how everyone's going. So yeah, definitely being able to see what people do, especially if the better ninjas have a more efficient way of doing something, but also then you might go, "Ooh, I might try that." But then also on the flip side, that what they did might be an incredibly advanced commitment. So if you don't have the confidence to go, "Yeah, I could pull that off," it's sometimes best not to copy
Yeah.
what the top people do, because their skills and athletic ability, well, yeah, the skills is better. So there's pros and cons to that. But generally speaking, by you watching, especially watching what people do when they make a mistake, some mistakes are just, it just happens, but
Yep.
sometimes you can see, and obviously having been an athlete and whatever, especially with the sport for so long, and also I do commentary. So when we have our national competitions, I commentate on our live stream. So I have become very adept to being able to read what an athlete's going on in their mind. So when they miss something or do something, I can often predict correctly why that happened or what happened, just by what their eyes do, what their, like, you can see it. So the better ninjas are very attuned to studying what others do. And I also do it with climbing. So when I can't work out a climbing route and I get someone else and I watch them, barring that I have the flexibility to do what they do, I just mirror the moves that they do.
Well,
and voila, you get it. So yeah, you need
have
to.
you ever come across the term behavioral modeling?
Sounds familiar. It sounds like typical psychology.
It came out of NLP, neuro linguistic programming.
Yeah.
I recently did a behavioral modeling course, and the behavioral modeling is working out not only the external or visual reference structures or moves, or you can work out things by observation, but there's also internal referencing. Like, for instance, if you were behavioral modeling, Greg Norman as a golfer, and you'd say, what sounds are you hearing, what smells are you smelling, what tastes which part of your body, because there's a lot of internal stuff going on as well as the visual external stuff. So what I'm finding in my sport with badminton, the more I can apply that behavioral modeling to watching elite players play, because we've got several levels where I play. They go from beginner, intermediate, advanced. I will go up and spend time watching the advanced players and see what move I can work on. And then I try and imagine from their facial expression, from their breathing, I'm observing not just their physical movement, but I'm trying to assess where their eyes are going, where their breathing's going, what sort of possible thought structures they've got, that I can mimic that as well to get into that particular state. Because would you say in some of your difficult trajectories, there's not just a mindset, but a mental state, a way of being in
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
You need to be in flow. And some of it, sometimes it comes naturally to some people. So it's funny, all the stuff you say, like when we just talking, we call that just athlete brain.
Athlete brain.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's just like it just being able to study movement, and some people can do it, some people cannot. So yeah, some people just have, I know we just call it athlete brain. In terms
I
of
love it. I didn't know about athlete brain, but it makes perfect sense to me, because NLP and behavioral modeling, it's not like someone's invented something that never existed. They're discovering what exists, but put it into a teachable format and a transferable format, so you can actually replicate behaviors or replicate skills, get the best possible people out of best possible skill, find out their internal dialogues and their external movements, and then say, right, now we'll put into a training program, we'll train you to that level of excellence if you follow these precepts. So what advice do you have for our viewers who might be aspiring to move into some physical prowess, some sort of sport routine and discipline?
Well, the first thing I would do is you can't look at people who are elite. I'm talking as someone who's brand new, and be shocked or annoyed that you can't do what someone who's been doing something for years, which I think is a common occurrence with anyone who does anything new, with anything, and they compare themselves to the best, the elite of the elite, and go, what, and they get impatient, because people are impatient now. It's myself included, you want skills now, you want this now, you want money now, you want all this now, but they take time. So accept from the get-go that everything, you're going to be crap from the beginning, and that's okay. You should be. You're meant to be. So if you need to, so if you have a mindset that you're very impatient, you're going to have a very hard time. Not just fitness, could be anything. you have a very hard time adopting new things. And then probably on the backing of that, I would speak with those people who are better, and don't be intimidated, because often not people who are better will want to help you. But I find, like, especially with Ninja, people who are new, they're too intimidated to join and learn. Sorry, they're too intimidated to join in because they're worried about embarrassing themselves,
Attachment,
as
yeah.
opposed to not realizing if you actually spend some time with the elite people, your trajectory will improve. It'll be like this. Rather than you going like that, you spend more time with better people. And that's what I did. I think come to season 3 or getting into season 3 or 4. Like, I haven't been on the Australian one since season 2, but I've been involved in the production side for basically from that point on. I made to realize, I'm like, man, my training's not really improving. So I started training with, like, basically the top 3 ninjas probably in Australia. And then they started telling me things, and I just went like this to like that. But because it's not, I mean, obviously I've been involved, so it's different. I'm not scared, intimidated, but like, if sometimes if I'm climbing, because obviously that's more new to me, I carry that over. I don't let myself get intimidated by better climbers, because everyone climbing is very nice. And then often or not, I watch and ask them, I go, how do you do that? Da, 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 da. And lo and behold, you learn, and you get a new move, and so yeah, I think that would be the most important thing. There. That was a very long-winded answer, but yeah,
It's a great answer.
to recap.
Yeah.
Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't feel embarrassed or annoyed that you can't be an elite level. And then 2, also ask the elite people for their thoughts and assistance, and that will help you immensely.
That's powerful, about the patience aspect and the non-judgment. I would say in my life, in my earlier years, I gave up so many pursuits because of self-conscious reflections of not good enough and whatever. And it wasn't until many, many years later, and only in the last 5-10 years, that part of my life stopped. And I started to say, well, I'm going to accept where I'm at and what I'm doing and just keep going anyway. And then when I had accepted that, I was able to advance easier than all that other striving and wishing I was where I wasn't and all the rest of it. I'm actually approaching to get some coaching in badminton to improve my game. But the thought went through my head, the first thing a good coach is going to do is get my leg and foot placement on the court sorted out so that I can cover more ground, because the hitting side of it will sort itself out pretty much anyway, and then they can work on that. And I realized, well, before I even go and waste money on a coach, and he's going to tell me to do these foot placements, and I've got leg issues, I'd be better to spend 2 or 3 months getting the leg issues sorted. Then the coaching will make more sense, and there'll be less money dissipated in him just getting me to do basic drills and exercises to correct the leg limitations. So I've gone into stretching and mobility exercises, and that's improved my game incredibly. And I haven't even got to the coaching yet. And there's elite players there too to watch.
Well, what you did just then was also part of something I forgot to mention, was you sort of broke down the path ahead of you so that you could actually have achievable blocks. So rather than you swimming with the sharks and not knowing what's going on, you've gone, well, all right, well, I can already see I have certain issues, because you've already been studying the other players and go, all right, I noticed they can do this. I can't do that. So you've already started then, breaking down your journey into, I guess, achievable blocks and stuff, and to the point where it actually will help you better off financially, so you're not wasting money in that aspect. So that's the other thing. It's like looking ahead. Like for me in climbing now, there's climbing is different grades, so it's like I'm in no rush. It's like, okay, well, I start off in this grade, now I'm up this grade, I'm trying these grades, but I'm having trouble, so I fluctuate between these 2 grades, but now I'm consistently trying these grades. So eventually, hopefully in a few years, I'll get to that grade, so it's about breaking it down into those achievable milestones, I guess, be a good word, so that you're actually making progress and not swimming with the sharks.
That's incredible. Look, this interview has been so powerful for me, just to hear your insights on things, because my goal is to be a mature age world-class elite athlete, like mature age, because my father was able to compete competitively in swimming right up to the age of 91. He died at 97. And at 91, he was world championship in 4 national titles of different competitions in the swimming. I tried swimming. I can swim well, but I look like a drowning spider. I'm not going to excel there. But it's funny how, just by accident, I was invited to badminton 6 months ago by a friend. I thought I'd come along for a social gig and just to connect with this guy. And I've been every week ever since. You know, I haven't missed a beat. I think I've missed one where I had a tooth out, and the other one where I had an event on. But every Thursday I've been there for 2 hours. And I think the advice you give me about pacing yourself, but building things into blocks, having the mindset, and just being good and patient with yourself, that's really powerful advice. Well, Kadeem, thank you for your time. It's been really precious, and I think our viewers are going to really enjoy this. And we'll get it up there and out there so that people can see it. You'll find Kadeem's contact details, his Instagram and other social media aspects, so you can follow his exploits. And he's an amazing man to watch and learn from. I mean, some of those moves and skills he's got are very, very special and very unique.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, look, thanks for coming on. Any last thing you want to say?
No, I mean, I really enjoyed this. Obviously, I wasn't sure where it was going to go, but I was just rolling with the punches. But yeah, no, I mean, look, it's like, yeah, I think anything new will seem intimidating or hard, but yeah, if you break it down to its smallest common denominator and just gradually work on it, and talk to people who are better. I always like to, talk to people who are better, and not from a place of intimidation, but place of I want to get better. So surrender yourself to the I guess the things that put yourself around the people who are, the whole thing of you are who your 5 friends are, and that whole jazz. It's the same thing with sport, obviously, or anything, so yeah, if you want to get better at something, you need to be around people who are better at it than you. So very simple.
Yeah, look, last Thursday, due to the numbers and the people that came to the badminton session, I got to play, and there's beginners, intermediate and advanced, and I got to play with a couple of the intermediate and some advanced players, which I hadn't had access to before. They're quite humble and they were okay to play with me, but they pushed me a little bit. They told me, no, not like that, like this, do that, stand here, you play the front, and I just submitted to it all. And I surprised myself. I realized, being around those people. So yeah, that's my takeaway from this, is to get around the people that you want to be like, that you want to aspire to, and don't be jealous of them, be inspired by them.
Precisely.
And don't be intimidated by them. Be open and educatable. Thank you so much, Kadeem.
Pleasure, Freddie.
I hope to get you back up again for another session down the track when we've got some more exciting things in play.
Absolutely. 100%, Freddie. Anytime.